What is up, everybody, and welcome back to the podcast. We are having one of our home team episodes right now, and I'm just gonna come in hot. I'm gonna say it like it is. I don't ever want to do another butterfly pull-up, but I'm cool with doing a kipping pull-up, and I think there's a difference there. So let's just start off this conversation by talking about a topic. This got brought up by Dennis because we were discussing what we want to talk about today, and CrossFit had put something up about kipping pull-ups or butterfly, and I read through the article. It was from a CrossFit trainer who's saying, here are the pros, here are the cons, whatever. We've been doing this a long time, and I remember when the butterfly pull-up was actually created. I'm gonna give the acknowledgement of it, and you guys might argue this, to Chris Spieler. I'm gonna say it was Chris Spieler, because what the original way the butterfly pull-up was created was that he was doing pull-ups at a conventional gym where the center was gone, and he started being cyclical in it. And then I saw it and I started replicating it. Is that the way you guys remember it, or am I tripping?
First person I ever saw do it was Brett Marshall.
Okay.
Out of Canada. Yeah. He's the first guy I ever saw do it. So I always gave him credit.
We also have to take a moment to recognize that Annie Sakamoto at some point on the West Coast invented the frog kip, while at the same time on the East Coast, I was working on a frog kip too.
Whoa.
Not trying to toot my own horn. Not trying to toot my own horn.
So basically MDV's saying is that he created the frog kip.
No, I might have at some point saw a video of Annie Sakamoto doing it, but very famously, James Hobart and I did a race of, I think it was first one of 60 pull-ups. James did butterflies way back in the day, and I did frog kip, and we were like neck and neck the whole time. That was the good old days.
So just to kind of like preface this whole conversation, let's talk about a few types of pull-ups. There is your traditional pull-up, strict, no kip. Then you could have, a chin up, but let's just talk about traditional grip pull-up. Then CrossFit was all about work capacity, and you're trying to take your body through the goal was to go from an extended arm position to chin over the bar, or in some cases chest over the bar. So then these kipping came up, which was generally developed in gymnastics, right? A gymnastics kip where you kind of like use your torque, your momentum, your body, your hip to get your chin up and over the bar. Well, then people started realizing that if you do it cyclical, like a butterfly, almost like a butterfly swimming, you never actually get your chin over the bar. You just get as high as the bar, and you kind of float through the positions, and it was a lot faster. Then, of course, you have the frog, which basically like you go straight up and down, versus a kip swing that goes kind of forward and backward. All right, now that we've kind of prefaced these type of pull-ups,
and the ultimate goal, the ultimate goal with kipping of any of these is to do more work faster, right? In the CrossFit space, these pull-ups were brought into it because the goal of a lot of the workouts was to accumulate more reps or more volume or get a faster time on workouts. And these are undeniably faster than strict pull-ups. Undeniably faster. Now, are they better? Same, worse? I think that's up for debate.
Yeah, and just to also give some background, the way that the kipping pull-up was like originally taught was, okay, start doing pull-ups, now try to do pull-ups faster. And there was no real technique around it other than just figuring out a way to continue doing them once you fatigued, as well as try to do them faster than you would if you were just doing them strict. So we've broken it down to teach it using this progression, and it's like this going through the hollow and the arch. Like none of that stuff existed in the original days of learning how to do it. It was just like, all right, start doing pull-ups. Now just you're fatigued, try to keep doing them, or try to do them a little bit faster. And people just kind of figured out how to utilize a little bit of momentum. They weren't doing these big dramatic swings or anything like that. And if you just watch someone at a Globo gym, it doesn't mean to be a Globo gym, whatever, just a person doing pull-ups, and they reach a point of fatigue, eventually they're going to start to use like that, just that little bit of like forward and back at the shoulder, that little
body language. Yeah.
And that was really what it was originally. Yeah. They put a little English at the shoulder, a little back and forth, get a little momentum. Spin. Yeah. Find a little rhythm. And that's what the kipping pull-up really was. Yeah. And then obviously as time went on, they learned how to develop it into this skill and also make it super efficient and super fast in the name of getting more points, and trying to go faster.
It is probably one of the movements that gets the most amount of hate. I'd say I'd say out of all movements in quote unquote CrossFit, I'd say it's what is that?
This is the number one.
I'd say, okay.
Yeah.
This is the GOAT of hate.
I'd say this, and then, yeah, I was going to say
fast barbell cycling.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, the number one movement that you could kind of whatever is this one, because it even in the comment on CrossFit, I was going through the slides, and one of the negatives was you look like you're flailing on the bar. That was, I mean, per them, they said that, and I'm like, yeah, right. You do, you know. But when you watch someone do it right, it could be done pretty well too. But in general, it doesn't look like a pull up that you see at the conventional gym.
For sure.
Yeah, I struggle to even call it a pull up.
Well, before we get into kind of like breaking down our opinions and views on this, pros and cons, the first thing I'm going to say is that like it's a tool, right, that you can utilize to accumulate volume faster. And it's also a tool that you can utilize if you needed to grab like a bar or like a ledge or a fence, or like, you know, the famous kind of analogy for muscle up or using kip momentum is to get up above an object using the momentum of your hip versus just only relying on your upper body pulling strength, right? To get yourself up, chin over the bar, or hips to the bar. If you're doing a CrossFit program and kipping pull-ups are part of that CrossFit program, we're not hating on the fact that you're doing kipping pull-ups in your CrossFit program. This is part of that methodology. It's part of that sport. And it's certainly something that you can benefit from if your goals are to continue to do a CrossFit program. I think our personal views here might have changed on some of these movements through the years, but like no hate in the game. If you're doing kipping pull-ups and you're doing them right and you love them, keep doing them.
So I made the comment that I don't see myself doing a butterfly pull-up anymore, but I definitely do kipping pull-ups on a I'd say I do more strict pull-ups than anything right now, but I do incorporate the kip because I see the utility and the transfer over into other movements. I think with the butterfly, where that starts to not be something I do on a regular basis, that I think it removes the utility to other movements like a bar muscle up or the expression of the hip is just different doing a kipping pull-up than I would say doing a butterfly, right? A butterfly is just, you got to get really good at doing a butterfly. And I think if you're competing in CrossFit, you should 100% become an expert at that. Absolutely. But for me, I do more of a frog or a gymnastics kip now because the butterfly also just starts to put a lot of strain on my shoulders. So maybe I'm just getting old. That's
no, for sure. At. And I've always looked at the butterfly as like this cheat code to get what would be considered a repetition in terms of the fact that you're going through the full range of motion of the movement. Like you're reaching point A and point B, but like you're making the movement easier. Like it's so efficient if you do it well that you're actually making the pull-up significantly easier. And in that sense, obviously you can get more reps in a certain amount of time. You can hold on for bigger sets potentially if you're really efficient at it. But like, unless you're competing in the sport of CrossFit, then you're like, it's kind of a shortcut. Like you're trimming a corner in terms of like the effectiveness of the movement to actually build the capacity that you want it to build, right? Like just do a set of 20 butterfly pull-ups, do a set of 20 regular kipping pull-ups, and 20 kipping pull-ups is significantly more demanding metabolically on your grip, on your upper body. So all the things that you want to develop through performing the movement, you sort of like bypass those things in the name of just moving more efficiently. And
couldn't that same argument hold if you were saying like if you're going to go down the ladder from butterfly to kip to strict, right? Like you're making the movement significantly easier from going from strict to kip.
See, yeah, I don't think it's the same comparison though. In that,
interesting.
Well, in that like a strict pull-up certainly places greater demand just strictly on the upper body. But in, like metabolically, you're not going to even come close to the same sort of output, right?
Well, that's kind of the rub in this argument for me is like, why does the pull-up need to be a metabolic conditioning movement? Like, why does it need? We have so much other metabolic conditioning going on in CrossFit.
Yep.
And training. Like, why would you want or need this movement to also have a metabolic conditioning element to it? Unless the only thing that you're worried about is going faster in your workout or getting more reps in your workout, right?
Yeah, I would say that's a very good argument. I would agree with you.
And this is also a place where a lot of people, even if they're main focus is the sport of CrossFit, and I share this because I 100% fell into this bucket, start to not work on the things that's even going to make them better at the butterfly pull-up. Like you're going to limit your progress by just doing butterfly pull-ups every single time for the reason that you said, Dan. Like it's a cheat code. It makes it easier. You benefit from saving that for the times you test workouts when it's actually like the score actually matters, but you should still be doing a lot of strict pull-ups. And in my case, like there was a time where I like never did a gymnastics kipping pull-up. And I remember you programmed a workout actually where it's like, hey, you have to do gymnastics kip. And like, it was weird. I had lost this, like I looked like a beginner up there. Like I couldn't do a simple gymnastics kip because it's like you've never done it and there's so much good in that specific skill, to your point, and you almost like lose that if you become so myopic about like butterfly, always the score, always the reps, and not working on kind of like the strength you can get from strict and a lot of the coordination, hip drive and things that I think are packaged into the kipping pull-up, where you can have that included in a workout, keep the metabolic demand high, but not bastardize it to the point where the only goal is how much can I do here unbroken.
A super strong argument for the gymnastics kipping pull-up is the fact that if you are in this CrossFit space doing CrossFit workouts, it's part of your deal. It's amazing. We all did that. There is transferability of that motor pattern of developing the kip, that shoulder initiated kip, and then adding the hip momentum to it, to other movements in CrossFit that require a kip, toes to bar, knees to elbow, even the foundations, and certainly of the bar muscle up, the foundations of the kipping ring muscle up involve knowing how to use your body to go through that range of motion. So from a foundational movement perspective in CrossFit, the gymnastics kipping pull-up, I think, reigns king over the butterfly pull-up in terms of transference of skill. So that would be a strong argument, in my opinion, if you were like, yeah, but I like the kipping pull-up and it adds to all these other things that I need to do. Very, very strong argument.
Yeah. I think there was a time, because when I got into CrossFit, there was the butterfly didn't exist. And it came very shortly thereafter. But in the beginning, we were just kind of doing more of like a frog, and then a little bit of a gymnastics kip. And so that kind of stayed true with me, that I know that every night for as long as I can remember, I did a flow of strict, kip, and butterfly to work like strict. Then I break down. Then I went to butterfly. Then I went to kip, and because I wanted to be able to use all three of those weapons, like right, because they were each different for me. When I looked at competition, I looked at butterfly as my go-to, but when I got tired there, I transferred into a gymnastics kip. So that's the way I looked at it. But I think a lot of the newer athletes maybe don't necessarily develop that as much because it's just not as common. But I could be wrong. Yeah, I just, for me, it just doesn't have the same allure as it used to, in terms of like, I don't really, the time on my score isn't as relevant to me. So I'd rather get more bang for the buck in terms of the movement patterns for me today. Whereas back in the day, that was just different for me. It's the same thing with handstand push-ups. If I ever did do them again, I would do them strict. I wouldn't incorporate a kip.
Well, Jay, when you were bringing up Chris Spieler, and I remember back in the day looking at some of his scores on workouts like Cindy, and that was my jam. Like I was going after the number one spot in that workout. And how is this guy doing 30 plus rounds of Cindy into 38? Yeah, 40 rounds of Cindy for sure. And dude,
I was with him at a seminar one time, and I think that because the EMOM of Cindy, which is 5 pull-ups, 10 push-ups, 15 air squats, is pretty easy. 20 rounds.
Right. You can, and even the workout Chelsea for 30 minutes, like you can get that done pretty easily. Yeah. Doing the EMOM is not tough.
No, Chris was, dude, he was
next level.
He was next level. He was next level, dude.
Yeah.
He was good.
I love this conversation, by the way.
From a hypertrophy standpoint, like if you're making an argument for the kipping movements, I would imagine that there is a benefit for people to be able to get more volume in, specifically in the eccentric, because you're able to use a little bit of momentum to get up. You can get more reps and more pull. I just think that there's much more efficient ways to do it, and ways to do it where the risk reward is a little bit more in your favor. But you could make the argument, I would imagine for some people, specifically people that are newer to training, getting into it, that they can get a little bit more of a hypertrophy, muscle damage, all the good things that you want to grow muscle by doing the kipping movements, because it's just going to let you get closer to failure, all of the things that you want to do with a bodybuilding type program anyway. You can package that up into something that now you're getting the muscle damage, you're getting the metabolic conditioning, you're getting everything kind of packaged into one thing, which I think is why I think CrossFit is so powerful for people when they're first getting into training. But I do think that once you're a little bit more advanced, there's just ways to do that and accomplish exactly that without the risk reward of a movement that's so dynamic. Would kind of be my 2 cents on it.
Just on the kipping pull-up real quick. I mean, I've seen hundreds, if not thousands of people get their first pull-up, and there's something really magical about that too.
For sure.
Yeah. And when you are hanging on the bar, look, do I think that someone should develop a strict pull-up before a kipping pull-up? Sure. Okay. But if you're using bands, you're doing jumping, and then all of a sudden, man, you're like, look, this person's got some strength. They're not like right off the street. And I really want to get them that goal of getting from below the bar to above the bar. I'm going to teach them how to kip. And dude, I'm telling you, when someone gets their chin over the bar for the first time, even if they are kipping, it's magical. And so for that, I think there's also a lot of benefit, Gabe, not only just from a hypertrophy perspective, but from like a mindset perspective that, hey, I was able to hang on a bar, which is a great skill to have, and be able to get my chin up and over. Hell yeah. So yeah, I think there's a bunch still with the kip. I just don't think that the butterfly applies as much, even in that case.
No.
Well, with that moment where you're talking about sharing that moment in the gym with that accomplishment, that is like undoubtedly one of the greatest moments, right? Like the first pull up, the first muscle up, the first double under, the first rope climb. I've even like the first box jump for some people. Like, dude, I've had some magical first box jump moments. But the downside of that is that so many people then look at that and want that moment, that there's a lot of bad repetition of kipping pull-ups that happen. For as many good first rep of kipping pull-ups as I've seen, right? You've seen hundreds, I've seen hundreds. Dude, I've seen thousands and thousands of bad reps of kipping pull-up where you're just like, oof. You gotta take a step back here before something snaps real quick.
That's fair. That's fair.
It's even more pronounced like in the open with people getting first bar muscle ups. Like there is some that is like.
But that's
top
arguably
stage.
Also the time to do it, right? Like that's the time
for
those people to experiment with it.
Dude, Jason, my reaction before was I just got this idea. We should definitely do a tier list of pull-up types. S tier, strict. B tier, butterfly kipping.
Could do it right now. Now, to speak to the ugliness of pull-ups, nothing is uglier than a poorly performed butterfly pull-up.
Yes.
And that highlights, like, when we're talking about risk reward, like if someone is not super strong, super efficient with that movement, and they are doing it poorly, I mean, you're just looking at their labrum just getting ripped in front of your eyes.
You can visualize their arms still being on the bar and the rest of their body detaching. Like you can just visualize their shoulders just completely ripped apart.
And a lot's changed for me. Dude, I'm telling you, I'll be at the gym now. And, we've had the gym for close to 20 years. And back in the day, it'd be like, all right, let's go. But now I get more nervous when I see some of this stuff than I used to. When we first opened the gym, we had this guy, Gary Noel. And this guy was the man. He was awesome, super jacked. Everything was great. It was awesome.
Shout out Gary.
Shout out Gary. At our first gym, Rogue Fitness didn't exist. And so we built our own pull-up rig out of wood and like metal poles. Well, at the time, we did these metal poles where they were like, essentially like, I don't know, like plumbing supplies. And then you would twist it into the ends, and then we would screw it into the wood, and it worked great 99% of the time. And this bar was like perfect. I found like the best, I felt like the best like grip on it. It was a perfect width. Everything was perfect. Well, one day Gary is doing kipping pull-ups, and then he starts, I think I teach him the butterfly or the kip, or he was doing something with like a decent amount of momentum, maybe even bar muscle ups. And dude, the bar snapped. And I'll never forget this for as long as I live, because we screwed it into the wood. And so the bar itself didn't break, but where it actually secured into the wood broke. And he just, wow. And I was like, oh shit. And luckily he's like a ninja. He like basically bounced right back up again. But after that point, we ended up drilling through the wood, so that never happened again. But that just goes to show the torque you can create from a kipping pull-up. And shout out to Gary if you're listening to this. He's an actor in LA, and I'm glad he didn't die from that.
I was going to say, shout out Gary. Almost didn't make it.
Dude.
Now to speak quickly, just to get back to what Gabe was talking about, like from a hypertrophy standpoint.
Here's the encyclopedia. Let's go.
Well, just anecdotally, this is not going to be scientific. If soreness is any indication of muscle damage, the sorest I've ever been from pull-ups in my life is from high rep, regular gymnastic style kipping pull-ups by far. Like no strict pull-up workout has ever made me as sore as high rep kipping pull-ups. I've never been as sore from butterfly pull-ups, no matter the number of repetitions I've performed. And I've done some pretty high volume pull-up workouts, but for sure the sorest I've ever been from them is from regular high volume kipping pull-ups. Because it's like, you can do so many reps, but it's also a relatively high amount of tension on the muscle, like the lats and the biceps. Whereas like the butterfly pull-up just doesn't create that same amount of tension. You lose that piece despite the volume. And strict pull-ups, it'll just be hard to replicate.
You're bypassing the fatigue.
Yeah.
Nobody's ever gotten rhabdo from strict pull-ups, I don't think.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, okay, fine. That was an exaggeration, but you get what I'm saying.
Right. It's going to be hard. It's going to be hard
rhabdo from jumping pull-ups, holding the eccentric, or kipping pull-ups.
For sure.
Yeah.
I totally pulled that stat out of my ass. I'm sure that people have gotten rhabdo from strict pull-ups. I'm sure.
Oh man.
Well, I'm putting in my vote for the S tier pull-up is like the very subtle kipping pull-up. Like it's like a strict pull-up, but a little bit of cheating. Just that little bit of swing at the shoulder. That's my S tier pull-up variation.
That's the best, you're saying.
I love that.
That's what I'm going with.
Best?
That's the best one. That's my S tier.
Second that 100%.
So you stay within 100%. This deviation, right? Like if you had
like not even like less, like you're like just a tiny little back and forth the shoulder.
Can the knee raise?
Yeah, a little bit of pop.
How is that S tier above a perfect strict pull?
Nah, dude, I think I agree. Oh,
because the reason that I explained, I think you'll be able to still elicit a very similar amount of tension, but be able to get more volume and more overall work done with that variation.
I mean, it goes into a big thing.
I'm with you. I know I'm with you.
I'm a purist.
Goes into a big thing. I mean, for hypertrophy specifically, that's a no-brainer. And it's been going into a big approach that I've taken to just my training recently as I'm going through the second year of essentially very similar programming and trying to get a little bit more out of it. Like the more reading that I do, the more people that I follow that I really look up to in the space, like being super strict about these movements is definitely leaving gains on the table for hypertrophy, and I would argue strength specifically. Now, obviously, there are some movements where the risk reward isn't there to be sloppy. Like, that's not what I'm talking about. But man, like just really using a little bit of momentum to get those last couple reps, doing some half reps, partials, all of that is just like, you got to go there. You absolutely have to go there.
Yeah.
Well, I really like the idea of like, if anybody's looking to develop like or utilize this for hypertrophy, like starting off with maybe 5 strict pull-ups and then adding in that little bit of that kip momentum initiated through the shoulder and then going for 10 of those and then adding some more dynamic momentum, like not crazy, but how long can you keep that chain going without falling off the bar? And I think that's a fantastic way to utilize that for hypertrophy for sure.
It's like what Gabe was saying, like yesterday on Train Hard Daily was it was an EMOM and you did some bent over rows, and I was using 65s and I was, moving them perfectly and I was feeling real good. But then towards the end of my sets, right, I was getting a little bit of body language and I embraced my inner Gabe where he says I go too light. And so I was just kind of like, just those last little couple of reps. And I was feeling it, dude. And that's what we're talking about is like those last couple of reps getting like even like a little bit of a half rep. It's new to me and I love it. I've been having a lot of fun with it.
And you know what I've like really, really enjoyed, and Dennis, you'll probably appreciate this in like really deep diving into this world, is that it's also like a very, very specific learned skill to do partials and go past failure, but not completely stop activating the muscles that you want to activate. So like bent over rows today was a perfect example. Once you get a little bit tired, you can start like kind of like hunching your back a little bit. And you start using like traps, and you just start using different muscles to get the movement in. Or you can hinge a little bit at the hip, continue to think about trying to get your elbows to touch behind you, and you're still using the lats, you're still activating the right thing, and you're using momentum, but still keeping the right muscles activated. And that's taken me a year and a half, 2 years to like figure out, because you can easily just switch the muscles that you're using and squeeze out 3 more reps. But that's not really the point, right? Like the point is you want to keep using what you're focused on here, just find a way to use a little bit of momentum and cheat the reps. And that is a very, very learned skill, mind-body connection, so many benefits to that. And again, I'm not saying that everyone out there needs to be that focused on that level of minutia to get gains. However, if you've been doing this long enough and you've plateaued, like that's where I think that last, 20% of progress is. And it's been fascinating to dive into that world.
Yeah, I mean, to speak quickly, like to think that you can isolate a muscle is kind of silly. Like the muscles just don't work in isolation. No matter how isolated we try to. Bro. Yeah, I mean, and like no matter how much you're trying to focus on a muscle group doing the work and moving something from point A to point B, like other muscles are contributing to it. And ultimately, like, I mean, yeah, you want to pay attention to using a technique that allows you to place the most tension on a specific muscle. But at the end of the day, like, the muscles are going to contribute the way they're going to contribute. You don't have that much control over it outside of like a very isolated, controlled environment, like a machine that'll just force you to stay in a certain position. But if you're using free weights and dumbbells and body weight, like your body's just going to figure out a way to get the work done. So, sure. and there's tremendous utility in just getting taking something to failure, however you have to take it to failure.
Well, also the carryover benefit there is huge. Like even in doing, I've done a shitload of push-ups since February 1st, shitload. And even thinking about how my body is set up through the range of motion of the push-up and making sure that my midline is stable, I'm squeezing my quads, I'm squeezing my glutes, that whole range of motion is so different if you're thinking about how the whole body works as a system, as opposed to just thinking about, oh, I'm doing a push-up and I'm just going to isolate my chest or my triceps for this. And the carryover benefit for that stuff in other movements and just overall physique and gains and stuff like that has been pretty significant.
Dude, yeah. I got to tell you this morning, so, I train every day early, and then typically, depending on what's going on, I'll try and hit some jiu-jitsu later in the day or go to the shooting range. But today I was training and I was doing the Bulgarian split squats, and I did them after I did our challenge on the 10-minute bike. Oh. And so I did a 10-minute max C2 bike erg, and then right into today's flex, because I already had done today's Train Hard Daily like on Sunday. I'd already done it. So I'm like, all right, I don't want to do it again. And so, dude, I did the flex, and I'll tell you, for the first time in my life, I really think I did the Bulgarian split squats to like what they should be. And I felt this screaming through my front leg hamstring that I haven't felt before. And I think it's because I used the right weight with the right intention. But man, dude, 20 reps was, it was just so good. I dropped the weights and I laid on the treadmill. I was so messed up after these 20 reps each leg. I had to go lay on the floor after each set. That's never happened to me. I don't know if it's because I had the C2 bike or I hit the right weight.
10-minute bike right before, right?
Yeah, but I mean, but still, like I'm pretty conditioned. Yeah. Like, but dude, I'm telling you, bro, my hamstring was just like, and my buddy was with me. I'm like, bro, and him and I were both like, So, anyways, I just want to give a shout out to the Flex today. And if you guys are not on the brand new Train Hard app, you're missing out. You're missing out on phenomenal programs that are getting you in the best shape of your life. You're missing out on a community of like-minded guys that are going to train, protect, and provide. And you're missing out on a really great platform to help you on your progress, that journey, right? And to track it. So if you have not checked it out, make sure to check out the podcast show notes. This is, just your call out, right? Like, dude, if you're not with us on the app, you're really missing out on a phenomenal tool. So make sure to go check that out. All right, Gabe, you're going to say something about my Bulgarian split squats.
No, it's just such a great movement. I enjoy
reps.
them.
I didn't know you were doing cardio over on Flex.
Dude, it was 20 reps.
Do a little
each
bit.
Doing cardio over there?
No, wait.
20 reps?
How much weight did you use on the dumbbells? Because whatever you used, I used 5 pounds more. What did you use?
I haven't hit that specific session yet. But
double dumbbell on these?
Yeah,
double dumbbell.
I used 30s. And
30s?
Dude, I felt like at 17, 16. Now, maybe it's because I used the C2 bike beforehand. I don't know. But dude,
I'm sure that played an impact. I mean, obviously, that was a max effort. Like, you're going into it depleted and pretty. But yeah, I mean, 20 reps is...
It was a lot. And then we did those like glute bridges on balls, which is always tough. But yeah, anyways, I wanted to bring that up.
Will always wake you up.
Yeah.
To touch on, Dan, what you were talking about before, but that's where there is so much value in, and this is something that for a long time being in CrossFit being all about functional movements and the just incredible bang for your buck that you get from that. But in many ways for hypertrophy, you want the opposite, because you are going to be able to isolate better the more stability there is. That's the value in the cable machines and the machines. And maybe, we can talk about, this not resurgence, this new kind of like evolution of these like digital cable machines and how that tech is getting better and better. I know MDV, you wanted to touch on that. I think it's an interesting topic, but
like the tonal, you mean?
Tonal, and just like there's a whole bunch of different, our buddy Coop from Garage Gym Reviews, he's, somehow I think involved, but I see his videos all the time with that like small unit that, you can pretty much bolt up anywhere, and the resistance that you can put on it is pretty impressive. And the fact that it's that versatile and that you can move it around and bring it everywhere. Dennis, I'm sure you've seen Alec Blennis, who we've had on the podcast. He's used it every now and then. And it seems, I haven't used one personally yet. But there's also an interesting history to, a lot of these cable machines and just machines in general, they originated in rehab. So it was actually PTs that started using a lot of this exclusively at first. And then the bodybuilding community kind of like adopted it from there because they realized how good they were for stabilizing and reducing the tension on the joints. But having said that, there's a benefit to those things as well and those movements as well. It just kind of depends on where your goals are.
Yeah. I want to get a cable machine at some point. I haven't had one in a long time, but I want to get one.
They're legit.
And
if you have the space for it, it's great.
Yeah.
But now you can potentially, dude, I would definitely try one of these
digital ones.
Yeah, man. Cause I mean, it's this big.
Yeah, and apparently they're pretty good. But I couldn't wrap my head around it. Like, dude, I'm what's that?
No, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just, dude, I want to like get after it. And I don't know.
I'm a little old school with this stuff too.
Yeah. It's just
me and Jason are late adopters on technology almost always.
I just want it I just need it grimy and like, dude, even like the stair machine, when they offered it with the fancy LED screen, I'm like, no, dude, I don't want any of that. I just want it old school. Like, I'm here to do the work. And so I don't want some fancy thing. I just want something that's going to work. But maybe these newer ones, Gabe, I haven't tried them out. So maybe I'll check those out. But I was going to say, I don't know if there's a movement that makes me feel better. Like, if I had to say one movement that just makes me feel like a total badass, it's a lat pull down machine. Something about it, dude, just makes me feel like I just feel like Superman after I'm done. I feel like I can walk around with the biggest lats in the world.
Spaghetti string tank top,
dude.
Lat pull machine.
Oh yeah, you can get. Rogue has some pretty cool racks now with cable attachments. Yeah, they're functional trainers and stuff. You can fit them in a garage. Those are pretty badass.
Oh, they got some awesome
next
stuff,
level
man.
Rogue.
Yeah, they have some good stuff. But anyways, I have on my we've been getting in some really good responses because of the podcast. So I just want to say, keep sending them in. Thank you guys so much for sending them in. We've received them. We hear you, and like, we're here to support you. So like, if you're going through some stuff, hit us up. Again, this podcast is more than about, we talk about fitness, we talk about life, we interview great people, but the goal is just to level us all up. Nobody's perfect. Everybody's going through stuff, but as a community, we could be stronger. So if you got something going on, make sure to hit us up, because we've been getting a lot of really cool messages lately, and I think it's meaningful to us. So just wanted to make sure I acknowledge that here on the podcast today.
Love that.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Dan.
That seems like a good segue for me to talk about my colon cleanse that I signed up for.
Yes.
I wanted to start with that.
I thought it was a coffee enema.
Dude, I wanted to start with that.
Wasn't it a coffee enema that you said you were going to do?
No, I don't think they're going to do coffee. I think it's just, I don't know what they're shooting up there, to be honest. But something's going up there.
No, you sure it's not the vacuum, Dennis?
No, it's definitely liquid. Jen did it. Jen already scoped it out for me. and lay the groundwork. So I signed up for a 3-pack.
Yes, talk to us about your colon cleanse and
your punch card in the gym, dude.
Yeah. Well, they recommend our doctor recommended that you do it that way. Like you do 3 in a row, 3 weeks in a row, just to fully purge your insides, whatever's stuck in there from 46 years of putting shit in. This is gonna get everything out. So yeah,
tell us the backstory. Like why now? What is the process? What's going on here?
Well, Jen had done it. Our doctor highly recommends it. So I was reluctant at first. She did it. She had a really good experience with it. And then they basically offered a special. Like they had a sale and they emailed us. And I was like, all right. Seems like a good. Yeah, it was
Where
like
the fuck are you finding these sales?
I'm on the email. I'm on the email list.
Oh man,
you got the guy on the corner. You're like, yo, shoot this up your ass.
Yeah.
Buy one, get one.
You have to like self-administer it. So you go into it's like a spa. It's like a legit place, and you have to go into this room.
Legit, 2-for-1 special. How legit.
You go into this room and they give you the hose, I guess. So you have to like self-administer this thing to yourself. And they give you instructions obviously on what to do. And then that's it. I don't know the exact details, but I'm guessing you insert a hose and let it run its course. You hold on to the water for as long as possible, and then eventually you just can't hold it any longer, and you empty out.
Dude,
and that's it. And they come in after when you're done. And they like tell you what a good job you did, or they like inspect it for you and tell you like, oh, this is a good one, or there's still some stuff lodged up there, or what. So that's the process.
Do they do like an ultrasound to see like what's going on, and then you like no?
No.
So how do they know if you have anything going on up there still?
I mean, I think they just know based on what comes out, and I don't know whether it's the contents or the color or the volume. I have no idea.
God, dude.
But they can, I guess they kind of like, give you like a score, so to speak, as to how well you did.
I can't wait to figure out or hear about your colon cleanse score, by the way.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited.
I'm excited
I've been wanting to do one for a long time. Where I used to work, the gym that I worked at prior to opening up my gym, the guy that ran that was a big advocate of it, and he used to like force all of his athletes to do it, and all the coaches there did it and everything, and I just never did it. But I've always been intrigued by it because they all like spoke really highly of it, and so I'm going in.
What are the benefits? What's supposed to be kind of like aside from the obvious, hey, this thing hasn't been cleaned out, and then the question I have for stuff like this all the time is this something that like we've always done, or is this like a need because of the environment and diet that we kind of have now?
How would you have always done it though? Like what would well, I mean, our ancestors, like what would they have done?
I probably think that this is rooted, and I don't know. I think that this is probably rooted somewhere long time ago before, like it's probably some sort of ancient medicine type of deal.
I would think so.
Like same thing with like aromatherapy and acupuncture. Like I think some of this stuff is developed a long time ago.
Yeah, just purging the system is like an ancient practice for sure. Like forced vomiting,
bloodletting,
shitting, bloodletting. Yeah, so just getting stuff out of your system. So I mean, I can't speak to the science around it. I have no idea what the benefits are, other than it just probably makes you feel really good. I mean. I guess the initial insertion's not going to feel great. I don't know. I don't know the size of the tube that's going to be inserted into my rectum. So that might cause some initial discomfort. But aside from that, no, I don't think it's going to hurt. It's just weird. I think it's just a weird feeling. You're.
Do you know what this reminds me of? So Gabe had recommended the Andrew Schultz comedy. It was Andrew Schultz, right, Gabe?
Mm-hmm. And you're not watching it?
I watched it. I did watch it, and I was crying, laughing. Like I didn't think it was like as emotional as I was anticipating it to be towards the end or whatever. But dude, like basically he talks for 45 minutes about essentially like having a baby, IVF, and then jerking off. That's basically what he talks about for 45 minutes. But the way he delivers it and is just hilarious. And at one point he's in this room and there's this like Puerto Rican lady. And I just visualize you right now, like in this room. Gabe, you know what I'm talking about, right? Like Dennis is if you saw the comedy special and you heard what Dennis just said, you'd put the 2 and 2 together. But I didn't
put 2 and 2 together.
Yeah. There's going to be a lot of parallels.
Fantastic comedy special, by the way. And I don't know how you didn't get emotional at the end, dude. Me
He's
and Ariel,
very funny. Andrew Schultz is very, very
sobbing at
Dude,
the end.
The talent of him to be able to go, and I know he practices, but to be able to go for an hour and just be able to deliver his content so well and not have any like script, any like, I mean, teleprompter, nothing. And then the sometimes the crowd would like do something and he would engage with them and then he'd get back to his skit was absolutely beautiful to watch. I mean, I can't imagine how much.
Did he do that live? Was it like live, first recording, or is it multiple recordings over a couple of nights?
It is it is one recording, but it wasn't live because now they do these live on Netflix, which is crazy. I know Rogan did one that was
Rogan did his live,
literally live,
insane.
But no, his was definitely one take. It wasn't like different theaters. He did it in New York, but it wasn't live. Because usually I know that they do
still
like
one take MTV.
They do like 3
shot.
or 4 and pick the best one.
Yeah. A lot of times with these stand-up specials, they'll do the same theater multiple nights, the same outfit.
Yeah.
So
then it could have been that. It could have been.
They put it together. So if you kind of like, the hack is you can kind of like look at the crowd and be like, oh, that person's different than the person that was there 5 minutes ago. So it's the same set. I don't know if I'm not trying to throw Andrew Schultz under the bus. He probably killed. He crushed it. But I'm just saying that's a way to do it.
Yeah,
film it.
I saw the same guy in the front row, but I don't know, man. Who knows? But anyway. It was just. I thought it was absolutely hilarious. I mean, it was a little over the top. Obviously, I think some people would listen to it. It could be like a little raunchy, but it was funny as hell.
Do you guys watch Kill Tony at all?
Oh, dude, yes.
Unbelievable.
And the fact that I haven't gone live and I'm this close to Austin is honestly embarrassing. I constantly like want to go. It's just late, but yeah, no, I'm a big Kill Tony fan.
That's at Joe Rogan's place, right?
Yeah, it's at the mothership now. It's Tony Hinchcliffe's show. He's been doing it for 12 plus years. Started at the Comedy Store in LA, and what it is he's like the ringleader of the show. He's the king of the panel. He brings on a couple of his friends, world famous comedians, whoever it is, as guests to be on the panel. And then they got this big bucket of names of people who've signed up to do a minute of comedy. And they pull the names out and those people come up. And they have some regulars there now and some people who actually absolutely crush. And they're kind of on the show. But what an unbelievable concept. Like the concept is so good. So the person does the minute, and no matter if they destroy and they kill or if they bomb, there's an interview portion afterwards, and the interviews are a lot of times better or just as good as the minute of comedy. It's so well done. Is the
goal to kind of like highlight the next age of like to give these people a quick spotlight? Is that like a goal?
I mean, obviously the goal is overall entertainment for the #1 live podcast in the world, but he's also found people who are now world-class superstars who have just been pulled out of that bucket and done a minute, and then they go on to be like huge names in comedy, which is amazing.
That's cool. Yeah, Gabe, maybe the next time I'm out in Austin, I was talking
we
to
have
Tim.
We have to get the home team out to Austin, do a live home team podcast, and then go to Kill Tony at night.
Oh my God, what an event, dude. Go train it on it. Everything would be cool.
That's it. Train hard men's club.
The day that we get on Joe Rogan, how about that? Then we can go do it there. Go do the Joe Rogan podcast, and then to the comedy club, and then some jiu-jitsu, because Gabe said he's doing jiu-jitsu. So I don't know, MDV. When you get your Achilles recovered, you're going to be back on the mats.
Back on the mats, baby. I went a little bit before the Achilles injury, and had a lot of fun with it. And yeah, I'm definitely getting back into it.
Gabe
Dennis is going to get on it too.
So, dude, did that email really get you to actually think about doing it now, Gabe?
Well, there's no part of me that like isn't going to do it. I might start earlier because, again, the big hurdle for me now is access to a school and getting there, and just the fact that, honestly, we have so much going on. But we have the room in the gym to put some mats down and start with some private. So I think that might be something that I look to start earlier than that.
Yeah, we gotta get those Dolomar 10x10 or 12x12 out. Those are really good.
And then Dennis is gonna get started.
And I work for a living, not like you guys.
Dude, you know what? You got to make your job doing jiu-jitsu. No, I'm debating what my next step is. I really want to compete this year. It's just very difficult to find a competition that is what I want to do. So I mean, but also not to gloss over the email that you mentioned, because again, we get tons of emails, and like Jason said before, like we love hearing from people that are on the podcast, on the app, that we've had an impact. Like please just
send it in because it fires us up so much. But this specific email was a gentleman that emailed in saying that from listening to Jason specifically on the podcast, got him to want to get out his comfort zone and signed up for a BJJ competition. It was just really thankful of like the push to go out there, being the man in the arena. And that's where I responded and said, hey, this got me fired up. And, Jason keeps trying to get me to do this. And this is kind of like the straw breaking the camel's back here. But really cool to hear that. Really cool to see people get out there and put their mouth, what's the saying?
Money where their mouth is.
Money where the mouth is. There you go.
But with jiu-jitsu, man, the things that I don't miss about jiu-jitsu, number one, the laundry. I don't miss doing the laundry from jiu-jitsu.
But you didn't even go gi. You were going no gi. It's way easier.
Even no gi, dude, you walk out of there, your shit is fucking drenched.
Drenched.
Gi
is even worse.
Gi is even worse, for sure. And the second thing I don't miss is the skin infections. You can... if you get like ringworm or shit like that, I never got staph, but I got ringworm a couple of times. And like, it wasn't because I wasn't taking care of my own body. I was using like the tea tree oil soap, the defense wipes afterwards. It was just like, the mats get really dirty. People come in dirty. And
even if you shower, you showered after.
I showered after. Yeah.
So, I've been rolling for 9 years. And some people are more susceptible to this than others. So that I just want to be clear on that. And depends what school you go to, but
for sure,
after 9 years, I pride myself on showering when I'm done doing jiu-jitsu, and it hasn't been an issue. But the laundry thing is a real problem. And then
a colon cleanse might help.
A colon cleanse might solve all problems.
Boost your immunity.
Don't wear those white shorts, bro.
100%.
Don't wear the white shorts.
I'm not even joking.
A buddy of mine, Mason Fowler, who's a really good jiu-jitsu practitioner, he's encouraged me to try and do like a super fight. So I'll keep you guys posted because I'm trying to find someone who's similar to me who wants to go for like 10 to 15 minutes. And that's pretty rare. So we'll see. Because the normal people my age go for 5 minutes. And it's really short.
What about like something like the main character jiu-jitsu or like one of those like, those promotions now those smaller promotions are getting a lot of eyes, and that's down in Austin. Some really good competitors there. I'm sure with your connections, man, you could book a fight.
Yeah, I don't know. I just got to decide if I want to do that, but yes. Anyways, well, we shall see. We shall see.
We keep kicking this down the road, but I'm curious, what's everyone's supplement stack looking like these days? I know that's a question we get a lot, and it'd just be interesting to have even just a quick conversation and everyone sharing kind of like what they got going on aside from colon cleanses.
I'll start because it's right next to me. I just finished it up. I do Relight electrolytes. It's just something I bought off of Amazon to do that in the morning with like 32 ounces of water. So I put the electrolytes in. I've got creatine, and I've got glutamine, and I've got collagen protein. And that's real. I'm keeping it pretty basic right now. All that just goes into 32 ounces of water. I mix it up. I drink it. I'm done. That's my sub stack right now.
Jay, what are you doing these days?
The creatine in the morning. So I do flavorless creatine. I've been doing that since Gabe basically convinced me however long ago. I use the Jocko Fuel brand. I think you could just kind of find whatever works for you. But yeah, creatine. I also do at night, I use the Jocko Fuel. They have a vitamin C, like a Cold War, and they have a nighttime product that I use. Just trying not to get sick. And then what has it been? It's been a couple of weeks now, and I'm waiting to kind of like give you guys my full assessment in a month or two. But I started with what they call a VIP spray and also a oral BPC 157 from Bloke's. So I started that a couple of weeks ago. Oral BPC 157. So the whole reason why I started this is because I want to be able to be less susceptible to injury. I train really hard. I train all the time. And a big part of what we do for a living has to do with my fitness. And so I'm trying to think of ways to keep me from being injury prone. That's the whole goal. And so I'm not on the testosterone, although I'm not like opposed to it. I just don't want to go down that path. But the VIP spray, and Gabe might know more about this, it's like, it's just supposed to help with anti-inflammatory. It's supposed to help with recovery. And then the BPC 157 is supposed to, again, similar. But because I'm doing it orally, it's not as powerful as injections, but I haven't gone that route yet. So that's what I'm currently doing. And I'm going to keep you guys posted on the podcast how I feel.
according to Nick, the oral version of BPC 157, which is a peptide, is supposed to be really good for gut health, like really, really good for gut health, which has a lot of implications in other areas. So, but to your point, yeah, it's not supposed to be as effective for like the injury and inflammation stuff as injectables. So on the note of peptides, I actually went the injectable route with the BPC 157 for that sciatic issue I was having. And it's always tough to say because I did cut back on the running considerably, but I'm like 100% pain free and I'm running hard again. And it's always hard to be like, yeah, like that thing did it. But I did that for about 3 weeks. I was doing the injectable BPC 157, and it is, I will admit that while peptides are like this, I don't know if there's like a stigma to it, but it's definitely like because so many are technically performance enhancing or on banned lists, I know that there's like a little bit of like a, like don't ask, don't tell. But it's been interesting because when I feel like the couple people that I have shared that I use it, they're like, oh, like I've done it too. And they almost like tell you after you tell them. So I think this stuff is like significantly more widespread than maybe people think. But I gave it a shot. It got rid of an injury that like, really bummed me out. It was the reason I didn't get to run a marathon. And again, like I want to make sure that I'm not just like, oh, this is something I can do now and not take care of myself. Like I'm approaching this marathon prep for trying it again with, it was funny because we talked about like yoga and stretching last time, and I know I was giving you guys a hard time, but like significantly more recovery and mobility and like actual proper warm-ups before I go out and run, which is tough because I go out and run super early in the mornings, and like a lot of the time, I just want to get dressed, drink some carbs and get out. But I'm trying to be really intentional this time about like, moving around a little bit, following a program, doing all that good stuff before I go out and, start slamming 630 miles on the pavement. Probably not the best idea. So trying to be smarter about that too. But on that note, I have done that and we can talk about it in future episodes. But right now I'm just taking creatine and whey protein, if you actually want to even count that. In the past, I've experimented with literally everything, but to MDV's point, keeping it pretty simple now. The other thing that I am religious about is vitamin D, but in the winter. I do it in the winter, and then as soon as it's like springtime here and I'm getting plenty of sun, I kind of drop off of that. But vitamin D is incredibly important, and I do that during the winter months here, which is short.
I used to supplement year round with vitamin D, and my vitamin D levels got to like a little too high because I'm in the sun. In the sun,
yeah, you're
so
really
much.
good about the sun. Yeah. Because
people don't my wife overdosed on vitamin D. Her levels were like way into like the almost unsafe range. How high they were.
Wow.
Well, yeah. I mean, so two things there is obviously skin tone. You'll absorb more vitamin. Like Jen's going to absorb more vitamin D than you are, and so there's that. But one thing that a lot of people don't realize is that it's actually
racist. Gabe.
I was going to say it, but thank you, Dan.
It's that it's actually full skin, like full torso body exposure is what you actually want for vitamin D production. So even if you're spending a lot of time out in the sun, but it's like, if you're fully clothed, it doesn't have the impact that it's supposed to. So
yeah, I've known, this is just like anecdotally, but I've never really, I've supplemented with vitamin D a lot in the past, and it's never really had an effect on my vitamin D levels.
On levels? Really?
No. The only thing that does is the summer, like getting out in the sun. That's the only thing that's ever really, like I've never been below like a healthy range. They never dipped down that low.
But you haven't seen it like move? No,
I've never really gotten it to what would be considered like an optimal range, like the higher end of the normal range. And the only time that happens is in the summer, and I don't supplement with it then.
I know. What are you taking right now, Dennis? I want to know.
I take a vitamin C supplement in the morning, first thing, like a liposomal. It's like a liquid vitamin C. It's got like, I don't know how, it's like 3,000% of the recommended daily vitamin C dose. I take a turbocharged multivitamin that's got like every vitamin and mineral that you can possibly think of, as well as like that has vitamin D in it as well. It's got like a thyroid support in it. It's got omega-3 fatty acids in it. It's got digestive enzymes, so it's like loaded up. My piss is like fluorescent green every day.
Oh yeah. Do you remember the animal packs back in the day?
Oh yeah.
I took my first animal pack when I was like 17. And I remember I went to the bathroom and I thought like, I didn't know what was going on. It was like neon.
Yeah.
I feel like I was an alien.
Like neon yellow.
Yeah, mine's like that every day. And then aside from that, I take a probiotic. I started taking that because I was on antibiotics when I got the pneumonia last month. So I just started taking some probiotics again. I kind of cycle on and off from those. And then creatine and like an organ supplement. And that's it.
Like Liver King type of stuff?
Yeah. It's just a combination of like liver, thyroid, spleen,
desiccated organ,
pancreas,
stuff.
Yeah.
Have you messed around with any peptides, Dennis, or familiar with it at all?
No. It's like this. I get so confused hearing people talk about it. I've tried to like research it. I've tried to listen to people talk about them, and I just get people start talking in riddles, and this one does this, and this one does that, and this one does this, and this one does that, and it's just kind of like, all right, I'm not going to do any of them because I don't know what the hell these people are talking about. So
that's fair.
No.
That's super fair.
The BPC 157, I'd say, and then there's another one like
TB 500.
TB 500 are like the two I'd say most popular.
Yeah.
I know for me, I don't know. It's too early to tell, but I will say I was at Jiu-Jitsu a couple of days ago, and I was sitting down. And normally when I go to sit on my heels, like, so knees are on the ground and sit on my heels, it takes me about 7 minutes to warm up my knee for me to be able to put my butt onto my heel, typically. Like I couldn't do it right now. But this case, I was able to get closer and not feel a click and pain in my knee. Is it BPC 157? Is it just, I don't even know.
It could be the Nordic curls.
Or it could be the Nordic curls. So anyways, it's a bunch of things. But guys, I did want to, I feel like the supplement stack, we could do a whole nother conversation on.
Yeah, we should definitely dive into that a little bit more.
Yeah, but I do want to get to this past week's fitness challenge and then discuss what we're going to do, next week. Who wants to start with
I'll start because I'm sure I got the low score.
Oh boy, I don't know.
I got 5,032. I just broke 5,000.
No hundreds in front of that 32?
5,032. 5032.
You definitely got the lowest number.
Really?
Yep. Barely.
Oh, I could do that when I'm on the phone. What's going on here, Dennis? Come on, baby.
Dude, I was talking to Jay about this. It's really interesting on the C2 bike. I ride it a lot. That like 2 minute pace or sub 2 minute pace, 158, 155 is like, you can cruise on that for feels like for hours, right? And you get to 5,000, but then you try to go below that to like 145. It's a whole different ball game.
Well, that's how 157 felt to me. It felt like a whole different ball game. I don't get on there a lot. I've never really used it for any real duration of time, other than just like quickly in workouts. But so yeah, my legs just blew up.
Nice job, Dennis. Seriously,
nice job, Den.
Give me a hard time.
Thanks.
Dan, how much did Jason's comment about 5,000 super easy play into you getting 5,032?
Well, I kind of like half tested it out the other day. Like I got on there. And I was just like trying to hold just below 2 minutes to see how it would feel. And after 3 minutes, I was like, fuck, this is not going to be easy at all.
What did you have the damper at?
4.5, like right between 4 and 5.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
good.
you got the damper on the C2 bike does matter. Like,
big time.
If you're at like that 3-ish, because then your cadence
too low.
It's too quick. Yeah.
It just depends.
4 and 5 was the sweet spot for me.
This is a tough one to gauge for 10 minutes, to be honest, because you have to, I think to maximize this, you have to find a damper setting that you can pretty much throttle down for a long period of time. And then what I did is I flipped the damper up for periods of like a minute. I played with standing up a little bit, and I was able to do it with the Achilles. So I got 5.616.
5.616?
Yeah.
Wait.
5,616 meters.
You're an asshole.
I love when Jason takes second place.
What'd you get?
Oh, wait.
I can't see it.
Damn.
What does it say?
5.563. What'd you got? I got 5.563. You got 5.616?
5.616. So I was at like a 5.5 meters damper. I guess so. Yeah.
Redo.
I'm going in the garage.
I've been riding the bike a lot.
I'm redoing it right now. That's really good, dude. I mean, I held a 147 pace. That was my average.
I have the photo over here, but I was around probably 145 with the damper at like a 5-ish, 6. And then, like I said, I flipped it up to like a 7 or an 8 and would try to go below that significantly for a period and then brought it back down to finish it out.
Dude.
Game the system a little bit.
5, 6.
We got to see what the fucking cardio king over here got.
I love it.
Oh, well, you did an aerobic bike, didn't you?
Well, no, I don't have a C2 bike. So I took that as my excuse just not to do it. But I will share this. I started working with a coach to do some stuff for this marathon build. And one of the baseline tests that he had, dude, this was I'd rather do the 10-minute. It was a 2K row, 2-minute rest, 1K row, 1 minute rest, 500. They're all supposed to be max efforts. And that was a doozy. And it was especially a doozy. Nice. Yes. The proof. Because we just did that 2K row. 2K row is like one of those things where like you test it and you're like, all right, I need to go a year before I ever like do that again. So to have to do that just a month later. But Jason, when I tested it, when we were doing the bench thing, I got a 658 and I was able to do a 657.
Oh, that's good, dude.
Took
nice
every bit of like just everything I had. But then the thing is 2 minutes rest and then you row 1,000 and on the 1,000 I rowed 4 minutes.
Oh, wow. Hey, wait, while we're on the subject of the C2 real quick, while I'm checking my ego here, were you clipped in or were you non-clipped in?
No clips.
You didn't have any clips?
No clips. Jay, I'm very riding this bike a lot, dude. It's like the only thing I can do for cardio right now.
Your legs must be so conditioned right now.
I'm oddly good at biking and rowing. I've always been oddly decent at those things in CrossFit, even though being like a smaller, undersized athlete. Like finishing, what was that workout? Death row.
Yeah.
Finishing death row was not a really big deal for me in a very different way from you, for sure.
Damn.
But
I'm oddly terrible at both of those things.
Dennis, I'm convinced you could do better than 5,000. I know. I mean, dude, MDV must let the wheels fall off because I was hurting out.
I was not okay. I was not okay after.
But
I love
this is fun.
I love it.
This is fun. So what's the challenge for? Wait, hang on, Gabe. You went
MDV's
from 657 to a 4-minute 1K.
Yeah.
We got to work on your conditioning, buddy.
Dude, it was bad. It was bad. I had to stop. I don't know if this has ever happened to you guys. It's happened to me like maybe once, but I had to stop rowing. Like I had to stop rowing.
Yeah, I've experienced that.
It wasn't even like there wasn't a level slow enough that I could go on that 1,000 to feel like I could recover and keep going. I had to just like stop just for 2 seconds, but like I couldn't continue pulling the rower. But anyway.
I got to oh, well, I guess we could bring this up on a later podcast. I gotta, because I went to that sustained resistance thing, and it reminds me a lot of that. Like, I was the final step for sustained resistance for the police academy, for the sheriff's department, and I was the final step. So they go through a bunch of stuff, and then
you did that already?
I just did it. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
I did it on Friday. I could share it on another podcast, but long story short, we have such an advantage, and Caden was there with me and he wanted me to get cooked by one of these guys. I'm like, bro, I'm not going to get cooked. Like, they're at the end of this huge thing.
Yeah.
But anyways, it got me to this point where like I was on top of one of the guys. He's like, I can't breathe. And so I was like, oh shit. All right. Well, let me
worst
back off.
Feeling in the world, man.
But that's like the feeling in the row, only instead you got someone on top of you, but
which is significantly worse.
I'll share that on the podcast soon. The sustained resistance was a very cool experience. Very, very cool.
Come very close to tapping to somebody's top pressure before. And I have tapped to Phil Schwartz top pressure before. Just smother. It's the fucking worst feeling in the world.
Yeah, you feel like you're
disgusting.
Literally die. So what's the challenge for next week, MDV?
God.
So I kind of jotted this down as we were getting going here. I'm going to say it's going to be 100-calorie bike. So we're going to start off with a 100-cal bike.
What bike?
This is going to be 4 time. 100-calorie bike into 200 push-ups. And every time you break on the push-ups, you have to do 5 strict pull-ups. No English. That's the challenge. 100-cal bike.
So the A tier pull-up, you mean?
What's the pull-up? I mean, what's the bike?
Not S tier.
Concept 2. If you don't have a Concept 2 bike, I mean, I'm going to use the Concept 2. But if you have a assault bike or if you have an echo bike, the calorie number for that's probably a little lower. I'd say if you're going to do a assault bike, the calorie number is probably like 80 calories. Echo bike might be like 75, 70. 100 cal bike, 200 push-ups every time you break on the push-up. So you can be in a full plank position. You can rest at the top of the plank, but you can't rest with your chest on the ground. Every time you break on the push-ups, 5 strict pull-ups. We'll see how that goes.
I'm trying to get my S-tier pull-up.
Strike 2 for MDV losing his...
Dude, I was not okay after this 10-minute bike. That was the worst thing that I've done in a long time.
Yeah, it was awful.
Yeah, 10 minutes is that time
horrible
domain.
Time domain.
Yeah, it's rough.
All right, 100 cal bike, depending on what bike you use, you could have an adjustment. 200 push-ups, 5 strict pull-ups every time you break, and you could be in a planked out position.
Yep.
All right, gentlemen. Well, for everybody listening, we appreciate you guys. Send in messages, leave a comment on the podcast. We check all that stuff. We check the direct messages. We check the emails that come back. I'd say the most easiest place to engage with us and somewhere where we're really invested in is the community section of the new Train Hard app. It is popping off. It is awesome. It really is. It's our time and it's your time. It's your time to level up wherever you're at. It's our time to level up where we're at. And we need you guys as a part of that journey. So check out the podcast show notes, join the app. It comes with a trial. See what we're doing in the community section. See what we're doing on the awesome programs and do exactly what we do on a regular basis. On that note, I hope you and your families are doing well. Thank you, gentlemen, for an awesome podcast and keep training hard.